the acronym is it's TEAM, and it
Okay.
stands for talent, engage, accelerate, and mastery. So here's the idea. A lot of folks start at the end. And I love the way you framed the question, which is how do we identify competencies? And then how do we uncover where those competencies lie relative to where they need to be? Well, it starts with who you're hiring. So, as an organization, and I understand lots of folks have already hired folks, and there's probably not a lot of hiring happening right now in some organizations, but just bear with me here. So, if you're saying that I got a sales team, and let's take the BDR function, right? And we're looking for BDRs. A BDR in a company like Yelp has a very different task than a BDR at a company like Salesforce, right? There are different competencies that you're going to be hiring for. Within those competencies, there are acquired competencies, meaning these are things that Derek already knows how to do. And I'm not interviewing anybody who doesn't already have these basic competencies, right? At that level, it might be technology competencies. They know how to source online. They know how to leverage a database. Maybe they know how to use a spreadsheet. Maybe they're functional on a phone call, right? They've got some basic business acumen and understand what it is that we do for a living, yada, yada, yada. These are acquired competencies that someone has to have before, we can call them skills, before they even get into my organization or before they're even worthy of an interview. Then, and this is where the competitive differentiation comes in. This is where you get real juice inside of your company, right? Then you've got to understand what are the competencies I can develop once I've hired this person. And where do we want them to be? So here's brass tacks. Here's just foundational stuff they've got to have on one side. And then on the other side, moving across their growth inside of my company, just in this specific role, what do I want them to be able to develop? Maybe it's subject matter expertise. Maybe it's a clear understanding of the job to be done for your specific persona. Maybe it's some level of depth and some, ninja-like moves with some software and some tools that we use. Who knows, right? You know what those things are. And then you've got to understand internally, do you know how you're going to get them there? And this is where we drop the ball. And so that's the big one, right? So here's what happens just on the hiring front. If we just parse this piece, if you know these things to be true, and if you've developed some sort of rigor internally to be able to get people from the acquired competencies to where you want them to develop, you have a competitive advantage because you don't have to go hire from the best school who's already done most of this training for you. You don't need to go get the pedigree of someone who had worked at, one of the FANG companies or something along those lines. You can go get, I always call this the Scottie Pippen because I'm a huge Chicago Bulls fan, right? Old school Chicago Bulls. Let's keep that in mind.
Yeah.
You can go get Scottie Pippen.
23 and 33.
You know what I mean? Yeah. You go get what it was, Central Arkansas, wherever the heck he went to school that Jerry Krause found him while he was eating donuts. You know what I mean? Like that's the person, and this person's a superstar. And here's the beauty. When you've got salary arbitrage and arbitrage across the globe with respect to where you can hire from, why would you not want to be able to do this as opposed to having to sit in Silicon Valley or wherever you might be located and get the best of the best there and duke it out over salaries and all these other pieces. So that's where the talent piece comes into play. Now, how does this correlate to your ability to coach? Well, you've brought people into the organization. You understand the individual gap. This is where the difference between individual and team performance, right? You understand the individual gap between where Derek is today versus where he needs to go. And one piece of that is going to be training. One thing to keep in mind, and this is where we engage folks, that's the E. I don't like onboarding because it sounds like you've finished. It's like, all right, they're on board. Now let's move on. And in fact, that's what people do, right? They spend a ton of time and energy in that first week of onboarding toward ramp, and then they just abandon the individual. It's like, all right, fend for yourself. Good luck, right? And the high seas come, and you're like, yeah, just hold on, stay on board, right? But
never seen that before. That never happens.
Of course not. Everybody's got really robust professional development programs, don't they? So the idea there being you engage them, get them rolling, right? And then you move to the A, which is like, how do you accelerate? And so that acceleration becomes a combination of training, which is the development of skills, and coaching, which is the refinement of those skills and the utilization of those things in practice. One thing that's critical here is you cannot coach someone on something that they haven't been trained to do. If you've never taught me how to make an omelet, how are you going to coach me up on how to do it? I'm over there cracking eggs. I'm like beating it too hard. I'm moving it around too much. The fire's too high. Who knows? Gosh, I'm getting hungry. But you know what I mean?
This goes back to your point about the book too, and having your frameworks and having your stuff dialed in is part of your client success.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
This is it.
Being clear. Yeah.
This is where it goes. Clarity. Oh my God. Clarity is so key. And so here's the deal. What we do instead is Derek and Hilmon start a company called, Dare Hilmon Tech. and we got to go hire some folks. And so we go to like Indeed or LinkedIn Navigator, and we go scrape somebody else's BDR post. We do a find and replace on the company name. We post it and we get
Pretty
what we
much.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
So you get what you put out. You know what I mean? That's it.